And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you. And thanks for joining us today for our radio show and YouTube show as well. We've got a little audio, a little video, and a terrific program lined up for you today about alternative housing and some of the issues that surround that, and some of the people really who are directly involved with these issues here in the Rogue Valley. That's what's exciting to me, is that we get to hear a different perspective about housing, Joe, and the issues that are all out there. Anyway, Shannon Pewtress is with us. She's a broker with John L. Scott. Nice to have you here with us as well. How are you doing?
I'm great, Pete. Thank
you.
Yeah,
and tell us just a little bit about the market for you, Shannon, just as we go here, because I know Joe and I, we've been showing lots of properties, and I think there was over 10,000 lock boxes opened in May, which is a lot. Anyway, so there's a lot of activity going on.
Yes, it's been very busy, a lot of active, a lot of pending, and a lot of sold properties mostly. We're seeing a lot of things just turn very quickly if they're priced well and show well, and buyers are ready. They're out there, and they're hungry.
I was to say, May and June turn out to be the months that have you get the most money for your house. Is in May and June, and the most times that you go over the prices are in May and June, and of course we're right in the middle of that right now. Well, Shannon, you're also, I know, a former member of the Medford Housing Commission, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I know you served there quite a while.
Couple years.
And this is a passion I know is for you, is a lot about alternative housing and housing for people, right?
Oh, real estate is so much more than just buying and selling deals. It's housing in general. It's helping people from point A to point B and on whatever journey that they're on. And so as our population is increasing, we're seeing a lot of demand increase for the need of housing, and it's interesting to see how we're responding to that demand as a community. So I love to be a part of it.
And the discussions, for somehow there's more awareness about it, I think, and maybe that's a good thing. And the two people you've brought with you today are certainly evident of that, because they're right in the middle of it. Matt Vorderstrasse, right? You're the foundation director, right, at Rogue Retreat.
I'm the development director.
Rogue Retreat. Now, people know Rogue Retreat. Tell people how they would know Rogue Retreat or have heard that. Because when I first heard it, I know that name, but I can't remember what in the world you were doing.
Well, Rogue Retreat is a supportive housing provider for the homeless here in Jackson County, and we actually established ourselves in 1998. But over the last couple of years, Rogue Retreat has received a great deal of media attention because of projects like Hope Village and the Kelley Shelter.
Now Hope Village, for those people who have heard it again, tell people what Hope Village is.
So Hope Village is a tiny house community for the homeless. It is set up to be transitional in nature, to where the homeless can come directly off the streets into that program.
Yeah. Now, isn't that the one that the Medford City Council approved that, right? Wasn't that process, you guys, that they went through to do that?
Correct.
And it was a contentious, wasn't it? I mean, if I remember that right, wasn't that a pretty contentious going through all of that and getting that approved? Do you remember that?
It was a learning process, I think.
Yeah.
We kind of have to look at it as an opportunity, because the amount of media attention that it got, because the homeless issue is a big issue that a lot of people see in the community.
Yeah.
And when we were proposing a tiny house village, a lot of fears come from that. And so we were presented with the opportunity to kind of carry that and work with the city and work with local businesses to be able to identify a location that would work, and then educate the community on what the Hope Village would actually be.
Yeah.
And now that it's been operating since October, a lot of the initial fears that people thought
initially what it was going to be like.
Yeah.
Shannon, weren't you involved? Were you supported that, didn't you, in the Housing Commission? People really wanted to see this project happen, right?
Yes, everybody wants to see everyone with a safe roof over their heads, and I think that was the main thing. It is that it's a gated, very healthy community. There's a garden now. There's laundry. And it provides that roof. It's cold. It rains here. We need that. And so finding a location was a challenge, but it's a learning process for us.
Yeah, and I asked Matt when I first met him, where are these folks coming from who are staying there? Because I've got my impressions are not. I think like a lot of people, I don't know, but I assumed that these people, most of these homeless people, were from someplace else coming to the Rogue Valley, taking advantage maybe of our generosity. But you both have said that's really not true.
Yeah, that's not necessarily the case. That's a common belief, though. That a
Yeah,
lot of people
okay.
hold that the homeless community is very transient in nature, and that they're always moving from point A to point B and passing through. And the fact is that it is a very small segment of our homeless community, and that the majority of our homeless population in Jackson County are from here in Jackson County.
So the people that we hear about in Hope Village are really local people who
Exactly.
lived here. Why? I mean, they're coming. Do you know what the reasons? Let me bring in Brandon Toms here to this next part of this conversation, because Brandon's with a Habitat for Humanity, the Rogue Valley Habitat is what I know it's called there, and that's an organization obviously that people know a lot about. But you're also involved in a lot of housing issues as well, correct?
Sure. So we have had an opportunity, especially of late, to partner with so many local of the municipality departments to help with things like foreclosed and blighted homes around the area, to do our best to help clean up and give those new life to a family in need of affordable housing.
But why do you think the housing issue has become here? What are the reasons people are coming into Hope Village from here? Is it we have a good economy? We have a lot of things going. So why do you? I ask all three of you this one. Why is it happening? What's drawing people to homelessness right now? Would you say the biggest issue out there for them?
I think it's the big divide between the wages people are able to earn and the cost of housing. We know that the amount of affordable housing units, whether it be rental or purchase, is slim to none compared to the need that we see within the community. I think there's a multitude of reasons. I think somebody could say opioid addiction could have a huge impact on
Sure.
on someone's the end result being homelessness. So, but I know that Matt's group here does fantastic things with case management to make sure that when they get to where they need to be, they have the support to stay there permanently and be successful.
Yeah, and you're seeing some of that then?
Oh, absolutely. Part of the secret of Rogue Retreat success is really the case management services that we provide. So, unfortunately, we're not able to help every single person immediately because of the lack of availability of even our own units within our programs. But once we do get people housed with Rogue Retreat, they then become engaged in relationship-based case management, where we then work with them to try to really address the barriers that led to their homelessness in the first place, with the goal of eventually transitioning them into permanent housing.
How much do you three see people being forced out of homes because of rent increases? I mean, we've talked about it on our show for a lot of rent increases going up, and so are you seeing people fall through the cracks then, losing if they can't afford rent? Where are you going to go? You have no place to go. Do you see that too?
Consistently, and typically it's in the vulnerable populations, like the elderly that have a limited income and limited physical ability to go out and become employable again. Their Social Security is what their Social Security is. And when they purchased that manufactured home in the early 90s and park rent was $250,
Yeah.
now park rent is $700 and is
Yeah.
3/4 of what they bring home. So again, the vulnerable population, those on maybe Social Security disability, they have to be somewhere. And unfortunately, they're the biggest victims right now of this. Or the people.
That is just horrible to hear. I mean, it really is. I mean, I have a lot of clients. I kid Joe all the time. I got a lot of clients who are a lot older than me. You know, I mean, a lot older than me, and there's no place for these folks to go.
A great deal of our population in Medford in general are our seniors.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big pull to the valley in general. We see a lot of people move here to retire here. We have awesome, mild four seasons. You know, the affordability on the average is okay compared to the national level, below in some cases compared to the national level. And so as our population, as a lot of millennials are purchasing homes,
They are.
and, you know, we've seen a spur of senior communities being developed over the, all over the valley. We've seen our city respond to transportation and how to deal with that too.
Okay.
So I think it's affordability and rental, but it's also the demand, supply and demand, and who's out there. It's everybody now that's being impacted. It's not just job loss. I think a few years ago we were seeing a lot of the demographic of the homeless population was primarily Caucasian, middle-aged males.
And a lot of veterans.
Veterans, perhaps were down on their luck, lost their job, and
that's the
find themselves
impression
on the street.
that I think most people, not everyone, but a lot of people like me have. Okay.
But now
I'm changing. Yeah.
now we see families, we see children. It's actually quite different now. You see people who are coming out and they're hungry and cold. So these are the type of programs that are responding to the need of that.
And the need is certainly not going to go down, and we're not really addressing those in housing needs. Is that right?
I think it all starts with housing. I mean, there's a great shift nationwide to look at housing first. We want to counsel people on addiction, and we want to counsel people on family issues and family matters, but they really have to be somewhere first, and nobody wants them to be in that whole not in my backyard kind of thing. So I think that's something that our organizations work really difficult on. How can we be a good community steward, but also give a solution to people to hopefully make a difference?
It seems. Go ahead, man.
No, and I think a lot of that solution comes with collaboration between different community partners and different entities in the community, because collectively, I believe that we all can come together and figure out how we can increase housing and how we can create shelter opportunities.
There was I think in Ashland, one of our MLS meetings recently, there was a discussion going on about co-op housing. That seems to be another way that people can come together and live and enjoy. And even like dorm styles, for people with their own rooms, like at Hope Village, you got your own room with more communal living kinds of things. It seems like there's so many other things out there that we could try also.
Yeah. Well,
but this is temporary housing, right? I mean,
it is.
You look at it, you don't look at this as permanent housing, right? It's temporary. Okay.
Yeah. And we're actually seeing that a lot, especially with our Hope Village community, in the sense of a lot of folks that we are working with live on fixed incomes, and so their fixed income alone is not enough for them to be able to afford the rents in this area as they continue to increase. So what we're actually beginning to see is that people are becoming more creative, to where they're trying to plan to where the groups of people will lease a place and be able to rent it together. And that's something that we have to support, because I think that as the housing market changes in this area, that we have to become fluid in the way that we're helping people address it and adapt to it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see how you go. I'm encouraged that there's a lot of activity going on in it now, because we used to talk with. I mean, when you first came on our show, I think, Shannon, nothing really was happening. Right? I mean, we talked about it, but not a lot.
Well, even in the last 10 years, with the expansion of the urban growth boundary that's going on, that 4,000 acres out there on east side, a little bit of west side, and just a little bit of everywhere, is really going to make a big impact when we have about 1,600 buildable acres for more housing. And I also think the city's getting a little bit more creative, to Matt's point too, about ADUs and things like that. So
and thank goodness they are. We're going to talk about more of that. We've got a break coming up here. We're talking with Shannon Pewtress, Matt Vorderstrasse, and Brandon Toms here on the Real Estate Show about alternative housing. What's available in the Rogue Valley, what might be coming up. We got a break. We're coming right back after this. And welcome back to the Real Estate Show here on KCMX News Media 880. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys, with you here in June as we go along. Next week here on the show, we're going to talk about one of, I would say it was not my favorite subject. We're going to talk about mold again, and mold remediation and what's going on with mold. We got some experts coming in from Service Master next week from the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, Stechabachi. I still remember that name, Stechabachi. Anyway, that's next week here on the show. And we've got mortgage interest rates. The last show of the month, of course, Glenn Cunningham, our CPA, will be here. We're going to talk real estate and taxes. And what in the world is the new tax laws done to real estate? Well, Glenn's on that, and we'll get with him in a couple of weeks as well as too. Today here on the show, Shannon Pewtress from John L. Scott. She's a broker here, former member of the Medford Housing Commission, a passionate person about alternative housing and some solutions, has joined us, along with Matt Vorderstrasse. He's the development director, I got it right, from Rogue Retreat, which runs Hope Village and places like that for the homeless here, and Brandon Toms, who's from Rogue Valley Habitat. You guys do so interesting, varied things, all of you. I'm impressed by that more than anything. Anyway, Shannon, you look at the stats. I just wanted to say this: the SOMLS stats came out this week, and if you look at new construction, Because we talk about that all the time. The demand is so high, the prices are high, and what do those stats show?
Well, right now, so in Jackson County, overall in the market, in the last 5 years, this is incredible to me, we've gone up almost 50%, 49.7% in prices
In new
5 years.
in new construction,
No,
right?
that's just regular.
Yeah,
in new
regular. I'm sorry,
construction, though,
okay.
in new construction, it's almost about the same in 5 years, 48.4%. So
Tell me about the numbers. I don't have the Jackson County numbers for
it's
new construction. How
new
many new construction in a 3-month period?
yeah, the average price is about $331,000, and we've had about 82
Okay.
homes sold in 2018.
That was in the 3-month period. I'm sorry, that was March, April, and May. There were 82 new constructions in Jackson County. Okay,
Yeah.
go to Josephine County. You know how many there were in 3 months? New homes?
Not 82.
6. 6. And believe me, that's not going to take care. That doesn't solve Josephine County's problem of this at all. Now, do you guys go both up into Josephine County as well, Brian and Matt? Do you guys work up there too?
So primarily at Rogue Retreat, we do serve Jackson County, but we are in conversations with a couple of different organizations over in Josephine County that might potentially lead to some services that Rogue Retreat provides being done over there.
Okay, good luck with that. I wish you well because Josephine County needs that. I mean, there's the homeless issues there as well that we're seeing downtown, and you know, the commissioners, I mean, Joe watched meetings and stuff like that. So, you know, Josephine County, sometimes we don't think about them, but my goodness, they're our friends, they're our brothers and sisters more than anything else. Habitat is up there.
We just service Jackson County. There is an affiliate in Grants Pass, a small affiliate. They do about one house every 2 years.
Okay, and you guys here in the Rogue Valley, tell us what you're doing in terms of this issue that we have of housing here and critical issues with it.
Sure. So we take families living in substandard living conditions and put them in safe, affordable home ownership situations. So our housing is not temporary. We take community volunteers and donated items and build from the ground up mostly. We've had some opportunity, really prevalent opportunity recently and in the last couple of years with some federal programs like NSP, the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. And we've been able to, as I said earlier, acquire those blighted properties that are becoming a nuisance to the neighborhood and giving them new life, rehabilitating them, and getting a family in need into those as an affordable, permanent housing solution.
So you're taking blighted properties, right? Mm-hmm. That have just been abandoned,
so they've gone through the foreclosure process, and they're currently owned by the bank.
So they're bank-owned properties that are in neighborhoods like in Medford or something or wherever that need some revitalization, right? And it needs some help. Good.
Everywhere, and anywhere in Medford. I think there was about 400 homes that were identified by the city last year that were in need of help, and there were some new ordinances that were put in place on changing the procedures on how to approach the process a little bit differently, so that we could start turning these into habitable homes for people to live in.
I mean,
and the receivership that you were mentioning has done a lot to put a little bit of pressure on maybe a home that's not bank owned, where that owner just needs a little bit of a nudge to really take care of his property a little more responsibly. To reiterate your point, it's all over Medford. We acquired on Gould and 10th Street on the west side of Medford, Newtown and 10th Street, and then Gould and Timothy Street on the east side of Medford. So we're finding opportunities to help all neighborhoods in Medford.
And where are the people that you're helping? Where are they coming from, Brandon?
So
I know they have to apply, but tell us who's doing this?
Sure, and being here today is the perfect opportunity because we're accepting applications for our housing program.
Wow, okay.
We are. We only accept twice a year, and we're currently accepting applications until June 25th. You can find those online at www.roguevalleyhabitat.org.
Okay. I've got to remember that one. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of information, and the application's available for download. But we have a requirement that we help residents of Jackson County. So you must have lived here for at least 12 months, because we don't want to be putting all of our eggs into the basket of someone that's just moving to our area.
No,
we
I
really
agree.
want to take those neighbors and put them in a better, more stable situation.
People who are here. We got enough people who are here need
definitely
need assistance and stuff at times. Okay. And so, how many are you building? I mean,
So we
how are
just
you
sold
doing?
2 in March, and we are currently under construction on 3 of them, 3 additional units. We have a 16-unit development in Rogue River, and those first 2 units in that development are just wrapping up.
in Rogue River City.
Rogue River City in
Really?
Jackson County.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's called Dove Place. We
Really?
invested about
Okay.
$300,000 in infrastructure, and have just, like I said, we're finishing up the first 2 units now.
And all of them are going to be built as habitat homes.
They are.
By organizations and groups like that, like we're talking about.
Right, so team
wow.
build volunteers that come out to help us. RVAR and YPN were out there a couple of weeks ago, pounding hammers and hanging siding. So we're supported by so many different organizations in the
I was gonna
community.
say, you have to have a lot of people supporting you to do that.
It
So
takes
you
about
do.
2,500 volunteer
Yeah,
hours to
yeah.
finish a house.
Yeah.
So we certainly don't. The 4 of us in the office don't do it by ourselves.
Now, explain to people. You said that they buy the houses. Explain that to us.
So the family purchases the home for what they can afford, because our goal
Okay.
in the end is to make it affordable. It's typically anywhere between 30 to 33% of their gross annual income,
Okay.
which is government guidelines there, if you will.
Uh-huh.
And then the difference between what the home appraises for and what they can afford is a silent second that we hold, just to make sure that the home is not used as a quick investment flip or anything like that.
Right. They have to sign certain document.
Right.
Okay.
We have a shared equity agreement that the longer they're in the home, the more equity they can realize. We also hold a note for them, and we do not charge them any interest.
Okay. Oh, I see how. So they have skin in the game, right?
Each family also has to do 500 hours of sweat equity.
Right. I do remember.
So
that
they've
part.
got to be out there working
Yeah.
alongside our volunteers, and it really helps them invest in the process.
Mhm. And it's your success rate. We always talk about when you do things, you follow up, you're accountable for it. How is the success rate with Habitat been? Are people still in them? Are they still there? Tell me
Our
what that
lady
is
who
like.
received her first home in 1989 comes to all of our events. She paid her house off years ago, and she's still in it. We've only had one foreclosure issue throughout our entire 30-year history.
Only one. You're
Only
kidding.
one.
Well, you see, that's like USDA loans. We were talking about those. That USDA loans have the lowest default rate of any government mortgage program as well. So people do care, and they will.
They have
take
that
care
pride
their
of
place. It's
ownership,
pride, yeah,
and they
it's-
really understand when they see the community rally around them to support
Uh-huh.
the effort of giving their family a house, a permanent home. They realize what a gift they've received.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and I'm glad that you're doing that, and you're going to be successful at it. It's a little bit different than Matt, what you do with Rogue Retreat, which is temporary housing for the homeless. So there's a little bit different there. Do you see tell people the concept that you have there at Hope Village? Because I think if people have put their minds together, can we come up with some solution that's somewhat similar to what you've got there and develop that for more permanent housing? Okay, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, cool. I don't know sometimes.
So we, as Rogue Retreat was developing Hope Village, we actually pulled from the best practices of other organizations like Square One in Eugene, where they created Opportunity Village.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but one of the things that I know that they're going through in Eugene right now is they're building a new tiny house community called Emerald Village, which is meant to be permanent tiny home communities. And it's for some of the similar issues that we are encountering here in Southern Oregon, where Hope Village is meant to be transitional shelter to help people get off the street so that we can get them out of survival mode and begin meeting their basic needs and helping addressing their barriers. But with the lack of availability of rentals in the community that a lot of people can afford, we know that there is going to come a time where we're going to need to begin looking at addressing some of these permanent housing issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Eugene with Emerald Village, what they're doing is they're building tiny homes.
They're building them themselves.
Yeah,
Okay.
and with the idea that much more like the Habitat for Humanity process, to where they actually have an ownership of that home.
They own the home that they're getting. Yeah, see, that's the key. I mean, I think, Shannon, if I'm wrong, it's the key is home ownership itself by whoever is the beneficiary, correct?
Well, it's the dream too, right?
Yeah,
And
well, yeah.
and everyone wants that in some way. There's that pride of ownership. There's the American dream, but I think that the city overall and our community is responding as best as we can from the needs of immediate shelter to how to respond to the needs of the people incoming that want the luxury home on the hill. We certainly have enough and a lot of them. We have a lot. In fact, inventory is very high.
Inventory in the luxury market is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
So it's very exciting to see things like the Kelley Shelter that has 55 beds or.
In Kelley Shelter, we were able to give shelter for 50 people a night.
Yeah.
50 people a night. All right, and are you full? Are you full?
So Kelley Shelter is actually only a seasonal shelter that operates from January 1st until March 31st.
Okay.
But we're actually currently working on establishing a year-round shelter because it's been identified that the county needs a year-round shelter.
The need for year-round shelter is there. When it was open, were you full? I mean, was it full every night?
Yeah.
Did you turn people away? Or tell me, how did that go?
So the first year, it was more of an emergency-based shelter to where people would come every night, and we never had an issue of not having all the beds filled. They were always full. In our second year, we actually changed the way it was operated to where it became more of what you would consider a transitional shelter, where we established an application process and a wait list.
And that's where you come in and do that kind of caseworking.
Exactly.
Caseworker then.
And we also moved from being volunteer ran to also having a case manager on site. So once those people were accepted into Kelley Shelter, they would then have that bed for the entire shelter season. But then through working with case management, as we would begin transitioning people out, we would then pull the next person off the wait list to come in and take that bed.
But even when you have that, you still don't care for everybody, right? I got a break coming up here. I got to think about that for a minute because what you're saying is pretty interesting of what the future may hold for this. But we got a break coming up here. Don't forget you can check out any of our past shows at realestateshowOregon.com. There's terrific shows on there. And of course, we're coming right back here to KCMX. One more segment to go. We're with a terrific panel today talking alternative housing with Shannon Pewtress, Matt Vorderstrasse, and Brandon Toms. And we'll be right back to KCMX after this. And welcome back to the Real Estate Show here on KCMX, News Media 880. Pete and Joe, the real estate guys, with you today. And man, it's been interesting. Summer's almost here, you know. A Shakespeare outdoor season starts. Summer, here's wine is up. The jet boating on the Rogue River right now. Hopefully there's enough water for them throughout the year. Anyway, it's a great time of the year. Today here on the Real Estate Show, we're talking alternative housing and some of the people who are involved with promoting that and making the more awareness regarding it. Shannon Pewtress from John L. Scott, real estate broker here. And Shannon is a former member of the Medford Housing Commission. Matt Vorderstrasse from Rogue Retreat, and Brandon Toms from Rogue Habitat for Humanity. It's interesting things as you guys go through this. I admire you all because that's a lot of work. And do you think, I asked you this when I first met, you think you're making a difference, Matt, right now with what you're doing?
I think we are. In the past couple of years, the topic of homelessness has become much more of a interactive dialogue in the community itself.
Communities, yeah.
And so as a result, I believe that the raising that level of awareness has also allowed us to, as a community, to step forward trying to find better solutions for this. And as a result of that, we were able to establish the Kelley Shelter, which did happen to be the first winter warming shelter in the city of Medford. And then we were also to establish an Open Hope Village, which is the first tiny house community for the homeless in Southern Oregon. And we're also preparing to request expansion of Hope Village so that we can add an additional 16 tiny house units. And I believe within the next month, the city council is actually going to be discussing that to either give us approval or not.
Wow.
And so just having these conversations and the fact that these new programs are now in existence, it is making a difference. Is it making a dent in the overall homeless population? We don't think so. But we do know that for the people that we're serving, it is making a massive difference. And that as we continue to do this, our goal is for other communities to also begin looking at this so that we can also work with them and other organizations can work with them.
I remember what I was going to say. When you have a caseworker and you're doing something with somebody, where are you sending them from the temporary housing to more permanent housing? Where are you finding that housing? Is it apartments? Or tell where are you going with those people, because there's nothing out there. So tell me that.
Well, and oftentimes it's dependent on the individual for what's appropriate for them. So for some of our individuals that might be dually diagnosed with let's say, addiction and mental illness or developmental disability, it might be supportive housing with another provider that would do that long term.
Okay.
For other individuals, it might be working with them on finding employment and increasing their family wages so that they can qualify for permanent housing in the community on their own. And so it's on a case-by-case basis. And that's why I said that kind of the heart of what we do is relationship-based case management, because it really does depend on each individual and each household that we're working with and what their realities for them
so when you
are.
do them one at a time, you can find something. I think that when you think of the group, where do you go? I mean,
But you've hit the nail on the head, because we're here about affordable housing, and I know I've had an opportunity to speak with Chad McComas from Rogue Retreat. And the big fear is we've taken these people in and we've gotten them stable and we've provided them case management. And now there's nowhere to go.
right.
Habitat doesn't have the ability to build 150 units every 6 months.
yeah.
We know that we're about 5,000 units shy of what we need to house
5,000 units
people.
shy.
So,
Wow.
So they do all the work of getting somebody stable, and then we transition them into wanting to enter the rental market in their stability. And then if they need some sort of subsidy or some assistance with where their entry-level income is putting them, you find a 4-year waiting list with the housing
That's what I
authority
was.
to get a voucher.
HUD housing and Section 8 housing, you got wait lists.
Right.
Yep.
So
And then
I'm in.
and then on top of that, when we're also talking about Section 8 or any other rental assistance type programs where there's a subsidy, we're also looking at the rental market with the rise in the rental rates,
Right.
where
Oh, yeah.
oftentimes landlords are pricing out families that would be coming in with a subsidy to help them afford that rent.
And that is a huge problem that is out there.
And I don't want to leave it on a sour note, but the reason why I brought that up is because we're opening the dialogue. Chad's talking with us, and we're figuring out how the housing authority is talking with the consortium, and we're all opening that dialogue with, you do this, I do this, you do this well, I do this well. How can we fill that gap?
Well,
in the
look what
middle?
you've just done since the last time, Shannon, you were on our show. None of this was even going on. None of it was there, right?
That's why this is so important and a passion of mine is, when I got into real estate, it's more than just buying and selling houses. And I started to see all these different changes happen in people's lives. And there's so many dots out there, and they're not all connected. And everybody has good intentions, but they don't know what programs. We have a homeless task force of well-intentioned people that, want to get the word out of where to go and what to do. But it really is, case by case. Homelessness can happen to anyone. Drug addiction can happen to anyone.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can find yourself on the street like that. So
Yeah.
I think the city, with the CDBG grant that they have every year, really the diverse group of people that come in, the applicants that come in, it's neat to see that we are all connected in that way.
Yeah.
You see Addictions Recovery Center come in, you see senior housing community come in, you see Habitat, Rogue Retreat, whoever,
wow.
different applicants come in, asking for this grant and funds for their projects. But there's also capital improvement projects that are set aside to help with home ownership repair. So people that own homes but have mold issues or mice or unpleasant things that they don't have the money to deal with. So, I think that the conversations are happening. That's healthy. People are getting together. They're spreading the word. Just on Facebook alone, you go on and you'll watch the video on Kelley Shelter, and it's so amazing to see the people that are sleeping there at night, and you see them, and you would have no idea. You'd have no idea people that are homeless, or maybe living out of their car. So, it's
Well, the
important.
best part is that you're actually doing it. And just think, again, when you were here last time, none of this existed. Hope Village wasn't there. The shelter wasn't there. Habitat didn't have
Been
its...
around a long time.
No, I know,
Oh,
but,
yeah.
but Habitat didn't have 16-unit Rogue River City
That is correct.
project at that time either.
Yes.
So, because we've had talked to different people over the years, too. So that's an amazing project there. So we're almost out of time here. So, again, Habitat, you're accepting applications,
Until
right?
June 25th for our home ownership program.
And the web address again?
RogueValleyHabitat.org.
Okay, that's really important for some of you. So listen to that, and you're going to continue Hope Village, and my goodness, you got a lot on your plate.
No, we do. We have a couple different projects that we're hoping that we get the green light on, that we can get going on, so that we can expand the shelter opportunities that we've been creating. But then also, as the COC continues to develop, I'm also excited with the collaboration between city and different organizations.
That is good to hear. Yes.
Yeah, that we can then work to incentivize future development of affordable housing, so that we can get more developers that are willing to do it.
And Shannon, thank you for serving when you did as a volunteer there on the Housing Commission. I know you're not on it anymore, but it's still an important part. And look what's happened. I mean, you actually see something being done. That's remarkable.
Spread the word.
All right. Well, that's going to do it here for the Real Estate Show this week. Again, thank you all, and we'll give an update again here. We'll come back and see how you're doing on this in a while. Okay, so we wish you all really the best. That'll do it for the Real Estate Show here this week. For Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, thank you for joining us. We're back with you next Saturday. In the meantime, don't forget you can check out any of our past shows. You can watch them all at realestateshowOregon.com. So we thank you for that. In the meantime, have a great week. God bless you all. We'll see you back here next week for the Real Estate Show.